start our meeting.
She was, I read recently, just in the dog's cat, the dog says every walk is the best walk.
Oh, really?
That's exactly.
Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. Tonight we don't have any guests. In fact, we don't have quite enough Toastmasters for all our speakers, but that's okay, because the theme for our meeting tonight is ad hoc. And I knew that the Toastmasters meeting following a holiday was likely to be somewhat less organized than other Toastmasters meetings that we've attended. But I've made a comment in the forum that you should read. It's not quite on here. It doesn't get captured on here, right? That's okay. So the comment is about where the topic of ad hocery came up. I actually did a dictionary search. I was telling Ron before the meeting started, and it turns out ad hoc has a second meaning, actually the primary meaning I wasn't quite aware of, which is an ad hoc meeting or an ad hoc committee is one that is set aside specifically for an individual topic. And so an ad hoc that I'm familiar with is something that happens impromptu. And that is the second meaning of ad hoc. That was my intended meeting. And the reason I had that as an intended meeting is I'm very enamored by the way that biochemical molecules, especially proteins, work as enzymes to catalyze reactions. And they do this at very low energy. And it turns out that the very low energy of a protein, a polypeptide, is due to its conformation, its active state, and its effect on the catalytic reaction are all due to its conformation. And its conformation, you can picture a polypeptide as a string of pearls, is what they call it, a string of beads. And it turns out that it always falls into a specific shape. And when it falls into that specific shape, it does wonderful things in terms of catalyzing an enzymatic action. So I thought about this, and then I thought about Toastmasters, and I said, you know, as a group, we as a string of pearls tend to fall into the perfect shape to have a Toastmasters meeting. So welcome, and that's the reason for the ad hoc. Yes, George?
Well, I have a confusion. Where's the low energy comparison?
Well, it turns out that if you really want to know this stuff, turns out that the conformation of a protein is due to its bond angles, and that the bond angles formed by the different functional groups that are near each other, and that those have a low energy or least energy state in terms of them fitting together, and in terms of the bond energies actually going to the least energy.
So then the analogy for Toastmasters would be that we don't fight much. That's the low energy part.
The analogy is that often in meetings, and what is the opposite type of meeting to an ad hoc meeting? It's one that you've been rather rigorous at planning. And it turns out that some of the worst meetings I've ever attended have been well planned. So I tend to like ad hoc meetings better than well planned meetings. So I'm Toastmaster for tonight, and this meeting wasn't very well planned by myself, and I don't know whether it was well planned by all of you, but it's the theme of the meeting is ad hoc. I would welcome guests to speak, but we don't have guests, and I am the presiding officer of the club, and it turns out I'm the Toastmaster also, so there's no task there in introducing myself. You know me, and I'm the Toastmaster for tonight, and we have a wonderful program. To start our program off, we've got people doing double duty. So David, why don't you start by telling us the reason for the R-counter and grammarian, as well as the table topics, and introduce that, those roles.
Thank you, Mike. I'll be serving tonight as grammarian, so I'll be introducing the words of today, and I'll also be counting crutch words and grammatical errors. Words of today are lectern, will stand for holding books or notes, which we have around the room. Emergent, requiring immediate attention, is one of its meanings, one that's relevant to the theme for today. And finally, crazy, a short summary, which might be the result of an ad hoc committee. I'll also be serving as table topics master, so I'll be posing short questions for impromptu or ad hoc responses from people who don't have other speaking roles later in the meeting.
Thank you very much, Sid. And you're all familiar with me gripping the lectern. It's one of those things we're not supposed to do. But my précis for the emergent, the word emergent is actually emergent organization or emergent behavior.
Yes, that's another meeting.
And that, of course, is very interesting to me. It turns out that several organisms actually get together, and then there's a meta-organism behavior, and that happens with people all the time. But we consider that consciousness and conscious social behavior. But it happens with lesser organisms, and it actually also happens with some inorganics and some non-life forms, and you get emergent behavior in computer programs, for instance, algorithms and such. So I'm very interested in that work. Thank you. To continue, Ron, you're doing double duty as our timer. Would you tell us about the duties as the timer and also your duty as the general evaluator tonight?
As we all know, an effective speaker is a person who is in control. Evidence and indicia of being in control are speakers who can plan a speech to begin at a certain moment and to end at a certain moment. We are blessed this evening with the first contestant facing a severe examination of how well he stays within the parameters of timing. So, in fact, looks at a decrease in points for going over or going under. We will have 3 minutes at the first light, 6 at the second, and 7 at the third. Other speakers will have different parameters, as well as those who are giving evaluation speeches and the table topics. But the lights are there as merely a guidepost to show evidence that you are a speaker in control.
Excellent. Now, Ron, did you tell us about your duty as the general evaluator also?
The duty of the general evaluator during the month of December is to bring good cheer and glad tidings to everyone.
Yes, thank you. We have 2 wonderful speakers and 2 ad hoc evaluators. Actually, George signed up prior to the meeting. Actually, you signed up in appropriate measure. You signed up prior to the meeting knowing that you needed an evaluator. So George will be evaluating Ankita's speech, and Shola will be evaluating Ted's speech. And our first speaker is Ted Fitzans.